So I've had an interest in the trauma field for quite a few years now, and as I was studying my master's in counselling, I was able to learn a lot more about complex PTSD and dissociation, and after I finished my master's, I learned a lot more about dissociative disorders like OSDD and DID, or dissociative identity disorder. And that eventually led me into the area of organised and extreme groups or abuse. I've been learning a lot more about these groups over the past few years, both from books that I've read and just from hearing other survivors' experiences. So I've often thought about sharing what I've learnt on, platforms such as this, but I've just never been able to quite figure out the best way to do that. So recently, with everything coming out about the files in America, I've been thinking a lot more about sharing some of these things again. Because I see a lot of people sharing about the content of what's in the files, but I haven't seen as many people. There has been a couple, but not as many people sharing about, how these groups can be structured and how they might be organised and work. One of my concerns has been that I don't want to, vicariously traumatize people by sharing, what I have learnt, because it is also hard to share what I have learnt without sharing some details around it, and that can be vicariously traumatizing for some people. However, when I posted a video recently, some people raised the point of, how about you share it but just add a trigger warning? People can then decide whether they are up for it, and they just get choice around the matter. And so I've decided that I'll do it. So I'm going to go through some of the resources and books and things that I've read, and I'm going to share some of the things that have helped me understand, and hopefully they'll help you understand as well how some of these groups can operate and work. And so my hope is that it'll help put some framework and context to what you're hearing coming out of the files. Different groups are going to have different levels of organisation. Obviously, some are going to be a lot more highly organised and have a lot more access to resources, whereas others are going to be less organised or have less access to resources. So there is a range of different levels of organisation that groups can obviously fall under. The other thing is that many, but not all, of these groups have connections and they work with each other in various ways. And so I think despite the differences that can be in different types of organised groups, I think there is also some themes that can often be seen in a fair few of these groups. So hopefully by sharing some of the things that I've learnt, it'll help give some framework and some context around how some of these organised groups can operate, and also some of the depths and the lengths that they can go with their intentionality and their organising. So if this is something that does interest you, then you're welcome to follow along, and I'll do my best with sharing what I have learnt myself.